Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop, Emerald Planet. All the ecology news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's your host, Executive Director of the Emerald Planet, Dr. Sam Lee Hancock.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for the 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And we're always looking for those very unique and promising technologies, processes, but also the leadership of humankind that's actually going to take us towards 2050 as we add 2 billion new people to the planet. We have someone sitting right beside me, very exciting, and a leader around the globe. This is Denise Milan. She is the creator of Language of the Stones, also the co-founder of the Brazilian team and director of what's called Engage Earth. She's a photographer, author, and numerous other things. And Denise, welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Oh, thank you. I'm very glad to be here, Sam, and to share with our planet so many good stories.
Oh, I tell you, it's fantastic what you're doing, and thank you for coming all the way from Brazil, Sao Paulo to be exact, to be with us in the studio. It's really wonderful. But tell us about this creation, the Language of the Stones. What is it, and why is it important?
Well, it started some years ago, and it started with an exhibition called Lights in the Museum of Modern Art of Sao Paulo. And through this exhibition of lights with some sculptures, it took me to, a person came to me and said, well, do you know that about crystals? And I said, why? And they said, well, they are great conductors of light. If you come, I will give you a stone that you choose. And I immediately accepted the gift. Mm-hmm. And looking at that perfect stone, translucent, so the perfection of nature, it really made me want to go further and to decipher the stone. And that took me to the next step, that is Garden of Light, that I did at PS1 in New York. And Garden of Light was talking about the myth of Brazil, and this myth as this fantastic place, and through the crystal, I could enter into another way of really understanding Brazil. And what was a very inspiring in Garden of Light, there were different installations of these different kingdoms that the crystal kind of showed me, and the myth coincided with the discovery of Brazil. Brazil was discovered because of the stones. But also, going a little bit further in the road, just passing the idea of the myth, I wanted to continue to decipher what the stone is about. And that took me to the other layer, and that took me to the atomic structure.
Well, tell us a little bit about how the environment creates the semi-precious stone, the quartz, and what is the importance both to humanity, to the earth, but also tying in the environment.
Well, I would like to take you back to 150 million years when the crystal was formed. Mm-hmm. Imagine we are in the volcanic lava, and the heat is really coming strong, 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 and bubbles of air are made in the bowls of Earth. So imagine quartz and basalt, they are coming together. They have different natures. So there comes the drama. Mm-hmm. They will find the bubble, and whoever gets inside the bubble, the other will not form. So in this moment, the basalt, imagine the basalt gets in, so the precious life of the crystal will not form. It's to be or not to be.
Yeah, and we have a video that talks about some of this. Let's see if we can bring that up. Give us just a minute, and we'll bring it up. Go ahead and finish your story, and then we'll have the video.
So the drama is really, how can quartz, what does it have to do to survive? So a second, let's go back, and we will start the story again. Both are coming towards the bubble. The quartz enters the bubble. So the quartz will form.
We got the video thing coming up right here.
This is the aggregation of the molecules of quartz. And these molecules are present in 90% of the crust of the Earth. So quartz is common, it survives. And what is common is what can unite us, Sam. This is Pangaea, and we can see the stone narrating its own story. So how does it begin? In the volcanic lava, the bubble of air is there. We will have a conflict if the basalt and the quartz come together. So what does it have to happen for the quartz to survive? It goes inside the bubble. It does a skin to protect itself. At this moment, the quartz will become a protector. So this is the beginning of coexistence. This is one of the lessons that we can learn with the quartz, how to coexist different natures. And then going again, you know, looking at the stone and going to the skin, you have already the indication of the beginning of structure. And when you open the stone and you enter and you look to its interior, you can see the evolution of structure happening. And you go from a chaos to an inner order until you reach the structure molecules that is the quartz, you know.
That's absolutely fantastic. And we have these right behind us here on our large monitor. Tell us about this question of survival. You were talking about that through the video. And the whole thing about how do you balance this for all living beings on the earth? So this is animals, plants, insects, everything else. And how did this actually lead to your vision of the quartz and how this balance of nature, so it's really the balance of the mind, the body, and the spirit. How does that all come together?
It's an easy question. No, well, the thing is like this. I learned that I'm an interpreter of nature. This is how I consider myself. And really contemplating the stone deeply and going through its layers, I really learned lessons. And one of the lessons is survival, because if it can exist in so many different parts of a planet, that means it has a proper wisdom to survive. And maybe there are lessons we can share and bring to our species, and we as a species can survive. And why I think this is fundamental is because the laws of nature can teach us amazing things. So the most we relate to the laws of nature and how nature develops itself and its cycles, then we can maybe, you know, bring this and build systems out of this, from these laws.
Being a Brazilian artist, in other words, you're saying that Brazil is the land of the stone, the land of quartz. And this is really, even though we think of stones as something that's immobile, it stays in its own place, actually you're saying it's really a living creation, and that there's power there, and it's reaching out, it's communicating between the earth and the heavens and humanity, if I understand really the philosophy of what you have to say. So how do you relate this to nature so that it's not just something of the past when all this was created, depending on your philosophy of life hundreds of millions of years ago, as a journey through life for yourself, but also for humanity?
Well, first of all, I think we can, you know, I enter into a cave like a child, and it's like an open sesame. And then all the richness of life and earth and the minerals start to reveal itself. I can hear the voices of the stone narrating their own evolution. And this took me to do an opera, the Opera of the Stones. But with composers and Brazilian amazing composers. But what is the voices of nature and the formations of nature and how it narrates? That is the secret. Because if we don't want to tell by our voice their story, but we can listen, the whole point is we can learn to listen. The most we listen, the most we learn. The most they tell us, the most they narrate us, their own evolution. And if we understand their evolution, we can transmigrate this concept to our lives.
Right.
And that can give us some ideas of how to better imagine our future.
Well, we're looking at our future, we're looking at the balance of the environment, of nature itself, and human beings. And as we know, we've gotten way out of balance as far as with the industrialization and post-industrial technologies and products and things like that. So we're using more of nature, and in many cases we're not putting back in. But you're saying the quartz and the essence of the stones is helping to replenish the energy and the vitality of the earth. So how, again, then we as humans, do we become sensitized to that, sensitive to the power of this, and be able to use it in a way that we can actually enhance or better the environment as we go towards 2050?
Well, Sam, that's a very important question, and I think we have many different explanations going around. We have geologists, we have amazing scientists from MIT that, like Dr. Jerome Friedman, who also addressed the atom of he saw my work, a work that I did with Ali Perez, America's Courtyard, and he saw the atom of the quartz there, and he was explaining through, he is the Nobel Prize of
yeah, he's a very famous individual, and you know, all over the globe.
And he was explaining how in the micro and the micro and the macro universe, there is a whole integration. There is already in the micro you can see the macro, and that is the atomic structure. So when I'm talking about a stone, I'm not only talking about its form. I'm really I penetrate it. It's with this artistic vision that I really go through it and going through the layers until I really understand the essence that is there. And when you get to the DNA, you kind of get to the DNA of the crystal. And then I see the similarity between the DNA of the mineral and the DNA of our species.
We're running out of time. 10 seconds. What do we need to think about as far as the earth, the future, and involving all of nature?
We have to remember that we are part of a bigger system. Imagine Earth, imagine us humans.
That's it. Denise Milan, creator of The Language of the Stones, co-founder, Brazilian team, director, Engage Earth, as we create the Emerald Planet.
Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very nice. Hole is mine. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Why don't you just wash your car at home?
When I wash my car, everything runs down the street and down into the storm drains. With all the chemicals and the soaps and waxes, the last thing I want to do is poison my own drinking water. At least here, it's all contained and recycled on site. That's why I also take my car in for oil changes instead of doing it myself. I might take a chance on spilling stuff. You know what the best part is?
What?
More time to kick back and watch the game.
How far would you go to protect the planet?
I want you to build an ark.
Here we go. Okay, that's good. Oh, okay. Ow!
Maybe there's another way.
People, the flood is imminent!
Is it too much to ask for a little precipitation?
Go to fightglobalwarming.com to find out what you and your community can do to reduce global warming pollution.
Somewhere around the world, there are men and women of the armed forces risking their lives, helping rebuild communities after natural disasters, collecting toys for needy children, tutoring kids in school. These are your sons and daughters who work to keep us safe, secure, and free. Dedicated men and women who put their country first.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. on a weekly basis, and we're looking around the globe for those 1,000 best practices, the technologies, the services, and the products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And of course, we're looking for the leaders that are actually working now and preparing for future generations as far as how we're going to bring balance to the earth. As we know that as we use up more and more of the nature's resources and we have acceleration of climate change, is that we have to be more cognizant of how we are in place with nature and that we are actually protecting nature and the environment. I have two people that are going to be with me talking about these things. Dr. Jerome I. Friedman, who is a physics professor emeritus. He's also a Nobel laureate in physics and institute professor at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge. Also, he's a member of the board of directors of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists. This is very important as we move forward on this atomic scientist. And sitting right beside me, a special guest, is Denise Milan. She is the creator of what's called Language of the Stones and co-founder, Brazilian team director of Engage Earth. And she's sitting right here as our special guest. And we're going to be interacting with Jerome on Skype, and Denise is going to be here with me. And Denise, I'm going to start off with you. Tell us a little bit about your inspiration for what's called America's Courtyard and why this installation at the Adler Planetarium in Chicago is so important. And we actually have some photographs of this right here, right now. Denise? Welcome to the Emerald Planet.
Thank you, Sam. America's Courtyard began with Sectionis Mundi, that is a slice of the earth. The two pieces I did in co-authorship with Ari Perez. And the idea of cutting the earth was, I was working with crystals, and I wanted to decipher the crystal. So I wanted to go to the next layer, the next layer, the next layer. So I went to the center of this piece, and there was the quest. You know, I had my digital print there, and the labyrinths of our existential path, and the question, where are we going? What am I doing? You know, what's the next step? What is our species about?
Yeah, looking at this and just looking at this location in Chicago, I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. And I know there's symmetry to all this. This is to represent this interaction between the heavens, the earth, humankind, Shin Uke Nagashi in Japanese, which I studied in flower arranging and tea ceremony. But how do you bring this about so that you have this harmony as what we're seeing here? And this is many different types of stones from Brazil that's brought to Chicago in the United States. Tell us about that.
It was an immense work, and it weighs 40 tons, and it brings all the stones, the idea of all the stones of the America, symbolizing diversity and how diversity can find a moment of coexistence. So after some years, it was replanned to be, it was first at the Millennium Park, and then it was replanned to be at the museum campus in front of the Adler Planetarium. And an arc astronomer, when she saw our formation, she said, couldn't we lay this one that looks like the Milky Way? And it was aligned with the solstice and equinox of Chicago. And that was really, it created another whole idea. You know, it really connected the stones with the stars.
Yeah, this is just absolutely incredible. And looking at this location, I mean, this is just absolutely pristine. And so tell us about this location. Why did you select this? And why a Brazilian to Chicago?
Well,
let's link Denise, to America, okay?
Well, first I'll go back. I always follow the stones, and I think that when you follow the laws of nature, they will take you to where they should be. That's why I'm here. No, but in America.
No, that's exactly why you are here.
and America's Courtyard is there. It was really an invitation from the city of Chicago, the Cultural Center, and but the whole way and the team of professionals that participated in it was something that it really came. Because first it was round as the city, as the urban orientation, and then it became a spiral, as you saw, the Milky Way, because of the arc astronomer. So it's interesting how people interact.
Tell us about this, that people just, don't think of stones having this kind of innate power and energy and connectedness to humankind, and yet you're saying the stones move to where they need to be. And so in a sense, it's almost like it's divine intervention that's bringing these, and humankind is allowing the stones to be at the very spot where they need to be, such as like a Stonehenge or something like that. So looking at this configuration that we have right here, how is it that the stones wanted to be in this place, and what is the energy or the power this brings to a city, a very large cosmopolitan area like a Chicago?
Well, Sam, sometimes humankind is blind. We don't look at the objects, we don't look at people, we don't look into our environment. So if we can, come with a fresh look and look as if it was the first time, then you will see it's not impenetrable. You will go through and you will discover how molecules, we are all molecules and atoms, and we all aggregate in different ways that sometimes we are not so aware. That's how this story started.
Yeah, looking at these young eyes and these young minds and these young bodies, and they're sitting there in awe, you can just sense and feel this. And yet, this is something that's much greater than what they can imagine in their own small neighborhood. Even a city as big and dynamic and diverse as Chicago, it's a small area compared to the earth, but also the universe. And what you're saying is these young children sitting here are now directly connected to the universe. How does this relate to them as they become attuned to the environment and nature as we try to repair the environment and nature, which humankind really has very almost systematically tried to destroy in many ways?
Well, art education is a way. We are developing many art education projects in São Paulo, and that probably will come to Chicago. And the moment they are in an environment that proposes this connection between the atomic structure and a larger spectrum, they start to live that momentum. It proposes to them the possibility to experience this. I think art has this greatness of proposing, experiences that other ways you could not live.
Looking at the high rise of these buildings, I mean, you look at the scale of this, and this is really has a tremendous impact. You have this broad plain, and then you have the stones, the energy of the stones, and then you have the city, in essence, surrounding most of this, and then, of course, you have the Great Lakes in front of it. So how do you bear the relationship? How did you design this so that this fits in and people then are drawn to it? Because as I've seen the videos and I've learned about this, people are truly drawn to these stones and the quartz itself, particularly as it relates to recapturing or re-envisioning the dynamics of the city.
Well, it was designed by me and by Adi Perez, as I told you. And in reality, it's a structure that you can see already in the skin of the crystal when it's being formed inside the bowls of earth. So it's not a structure that is an intellectual structure, but it really comes from contemplating the stone and from listening to nature. So again, the structures that come through our observation and through our being part and participating of the adventure of the process of creation in earth is what can teach us. And Chicago, what a cosmopolitan city, it fits so well to the mission of the city, I believe, as well.
Absolutely. Looking at this, I know that we haven't been able to bring Dr. Friedman on because of the problem with the Skype, but tell us a little bit about this atomic structure, the quartz, and how that was integrated to the mythology of the people of the Amazon. And he was all part of that. He discovered the quarks, and this is, monumental discovery. And so this gentleman, as a Nobel laureate, has really influenced your life and your research. And at the same time, you've actually had a chance to influence him and scientists. So what's been the exchange of that, and how has this atomic structure really influenced the art, but also the science?
Well, in the Amazon, the same concept becomes a different way to perceive it. I went through all the layers of prehistory, of art, of cultural, of the local artisans, of the astronomers, of the archaeologists, and through all these different looks, I understood the most important symbol that they were talking there. When the South Cross is aligned with the city of Belém, it addresses prosperity.
Let me bring on Dr. Friedman. Dr. Friedman, can we hear you, sir? Yes. Are you with us? And we have to be quick because we're down to about a minute and a half. Tell us a little bit about how the art is so important when the emphasis within education is STEM. The science, technology, engineering, mathematics today, but you as a Nobel laureate are saying we have to include the arts in that. And I need a quick answer because we're about finished. Please.
Absolutely. The arts actually unlock creativity. In most scientific programs, we basically teach students what is known about a subject, and we give them the tools to solve problems. We don't have many opportunities for creativity. Art basically unleashes the creative sort of impulses. For example, doing art, one has to find solutions, not prescribed by rules, but something that comes from some internal points of view, from intuition, imagination. Now, this is a
well, Dr. Friedman, we've actually going to lose you right now because we have to cut out, but thank you for being with us, sir. I think it's just absolutely fantastic, the work that you've done over many years, going from an artist yourself into physics. And thank you for being with us, Denise Milan, who's sitting right beside me as we create the Emerald Planet.
Saving for retirement might be easy for some folks, but for others, it might take a little more work. And for those who haven't started, there are still things you can do to catch up.
Oh, that is good news.
Like getting out from underneath past debt. And don't get wrapped up with high-interest credit cards.
Get you some eyes.
Be diversified with your investments. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Your financial goals are not out of reach. The choice is clear. For a happy ending, choose to save.
Everyone with alcohol and drug addiction is in the same boat. With treatment, you can find solid ground. For drug and alcohol information and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP.
Dude, are you sure you want this tattoo? Because just do it.
Some mistakes in life are permanent. Like hearing loss. To learn how to protect your hearing, visit ASHA.org.
You've probably heard about heart disease, but did you know that it's the #1 killer of women nationwide? Heart disease claims more lives each year than breast cancer, lung cancer, or strokes combined. But there are steps you can take to protect yourself against it. For more information on how you can prevent heart disease, contact your local American Heart Association or visit their website at www.americanheart.org.
back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we're looking around the globe in 144 different nations. We're looking for those that are actually the leaders as we move towards 2050 and a planet of about 9 billion people, and how we're going to be able to provide an increasing quality of life instead of just an existence. And we have two people that are going to be joining us. They're going to be talking about this and how to actually what's called engage Earth, and how we bring humanity to protect and to nurture the Earth at the same time as Earth is nurturing and protecting us. And we have to be cognizant of this, and that's why we're going to have this with Denise Milan sitting right beside me, the creator of Language of the Stones and co-founder of the Brazilian team and director of the Engage Earth. And then we have Dr. Jefferin M. Hayes, who is a principal of Bridge Arts, very important organization in Chicago. She's also a curator, scholar, educator. I'm going to add to that, I understand, as a very famous designer as well. So, Jefferin, I understand that you're here by Skype. Welcome to Emerald Planet.
Thank you.
We're really glad to have you here. So, thank you for joining us. And Denise is sitting right with me, so we're going to have a very good time together. But tell us a little bit about how the arts help to transform and build community, and also to transform and build the youth that are going to be our leaders as we move through the 21st century. And then we're going to talk a little more about Engage Earth.
Sure. Artists have unique ability to see beauty in areas and people that are very often deemed unworthy of access and opportunity. When artists gracefully enter communities, respect and listen to those individuals, the individuals in turn begin to tap into their empowerment and also see the beauty and good around them. With the artist as the seer and the connector, the individuals use their voice and begin to understand that working collectively makes their community better. And this is a great way to train up the youth to become leaders.
Well, I tell you, it's absolutely fantastic what it is that you are doing, and also it's very interesting how that Brazil is having influence in the United States in this transformation. When I was there with the United Nations in Rio de Janeiro, we had a chance to go out to the favelas, and the energy that you have there, and you just see how the people really are reaching out not only to themselves and within their cities, but also beyond the borders of Brazil. So looking at this Engage Earth, how do you see this interaction between Brazil and the United States, and the importance of this among youth, but also women and the general community itself?
The great thing about Engage Earth is that it's a project and a model that encourages access, education, inclusion, and diversity, which is all absolutely necessary for these kinds of transformations to happen. And in underserved and urban communities in the United States, sometimes the art projects don't fully consider these areas with intentionality. And that's the beauty in Engage Earth. Engage Earth brings different people together to think about how their individuality, whether they're youth, women, people of color, how they can use that to change society and their immediate environment. When you consider the stone as this neutral object, and its place in cultural and universal identity, as well as its place in our natural environment, you begin to see that you're connected to it. And I believe that the youth and the community at large will begin to see themselves differently and begin to care more about their immediate surroundings because of their connection to to the stone and to the environment, and quite frankly, the larger ecosystem.
I think we have a video called Precious Lives, and it really talks about this, and we see the energy, but also we hear the energy. So if we can show that video at this time, and then I'm going to be talking to Denise for just a minute, and then we're going to have Jeffrin and Denise interacting. So if we can bring up the video, that'd be great.
Desatando os nós, Coordenatriz descobre que é possível fluir, aprendendo a se mover na ordem com a leveza que violeta luz no coração.
Muito obrigada por vocês terem vidas preciosas e entenderem que a força da vida é maior do que a força do medo.
Voz das vozes.
Well, Denise, looking at this is just absolutely incredible what Brazil is bringing to the United States and how they're connected. And Jeffrin, thank you for talking about that connectedness, but at the same time, how we're energizing the communities and energizing people in the total society. So looking at this, what is the vision, the mission of Engage Earth as you perceive it from the Brazilian perspective?
Well, it began in a very organic way. It's done by a team of professionals, really skilled professionals, constructing the story together with the community and listening to the community. And it took 6 years for us to do. We are getting to the sixth year.
6 years?
6 years.
My goodness.
Involving 5,200 children until now. And the mission is really to educate, to be integrated to their nature and to nature, to the environment. So first, if they are not integrated into their nature, how can they be integrated to a bigger environment? And facing the obstacles, learning how to face them.
Well, looking at what Jeffrin was talking about earlier as far as this connectedness and bringing the youth to understand themselves, to understand their families, the community around them, and the greater society, how can the youth, many of them they're in very challenging areas, living in the favelas, and having been in 5 or 6 of those, it really is challenging. So how do we bring all that together so that you're actually taking this Engage Earth, you're helping the environment in general, but helping these youth very specifically?
Well, through the survival of the stone, I learned that there is the presence of life and the absence of life. So in their lives also, everything that is drugs, violence, everything that takes them out of their possibility of dreaming is the absence of life. So they name it and they know that that is the basalt, and they go in search of the life force. So they go in search of survival, of being quartz. And through representation of the creation of Earth, they face, they understand better how to survive the obstacles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at these obstacles, I mean, we're throwing up climate change is alive and very real in Brazil as it is in every country around the globe. And also the needs of an expanding population in a country like Brazil and many emerging market economies. How do we impress on the youth that you really can become, you know, with this new energy, with awareness of the environment and the earth, that you can become much more, much greater than what you see it's in your day-to-day, no matter how humble that may be, and that yet you can rise above this and contribute to society?
Well, as I said to you, it's a teamwork, it's a collaborative work, and collaboration is not only the professionals, but it is the community. And it's really giving workshops, working with games, and bringing different instruments and supports for them to raise their imagination. Mm-hmm. Imagination, it's such a wonderful thing that through imagination they can reach their dreams. And dreams is the only way to survive the very heaviness that can really take them out of, you know, continue to have a quality life, you know.
Jefferin, in a place like Chicago and the work that you're doing through Engage Earth and interacting with what I call the national treasure of Brazil, how do you see that transformation actually happening? We saw the energy and, you know, many of the cultural aspects of Brazil being expressed. And even though you have some of those elements in Chicago, it's still a very different culture, a different vibration, if you will, between the earth, humankind. How do you see that being transformed into a city like Chicago that is a port and hub of commerce and culture and arts?
The first thing is to really connect with the youth and organizations and individuals who are already doing community work. It's really important to tap into the work that's happening and understanding that we're not bringing something completely new and imposing on to the community. I also think it's important to connect with people who are doing the work and doing it on an individual and collective level. And the most important thing, I think, in general with doing this kind of work is talking to the community and listening. And I know that Denise has shared that that's how the project grew in Brazil. So
well, Jefferin, this is Dr. Jefferin Hayes, Principal of Bridge Arts of Chicago. I have Denise Milan, the creator of Language of the Stones and also creator of the Engage Earth, as we create the Emerald Planet.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo. I would like to speak English better. Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years,
por más de 35 años,
the Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
El Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals,
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
are a small part of what we do.
Son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia.
Comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
Ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena, where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not know the half.
We're back to the Inside Scoop Emerald Planet. Here again, your host, Dr. Sam.
Hello and welcome to the Emerald Planet as we come to you from Washington, D.C. in the United States on a week-to-week basis, looking around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for the 1,000 best practices, technology, services, products, and of course the people that are making a real difference as we move forward towards the 2050. And as we go to a planet of 9 billion people, how we're going to be able to provide for their welfare, but actually to enhance the planet and at the same time enhancing their life. And we have two women that are very dynamic and have been involved in this activity for much time. Coming in by Skype is Dr. Naomi H. Moniz, who is the Department of Spanish and Portuguese, Brazilian Studies and Comparative Literature at Georgetown University, retired. And sitting right beside me, all the way from Sao Paulo, Brazil, is our very special guest, Denise Milan, who is the creator of The Language of the Stones and also co-founder of the Brazilian team and director of what's called Engage Earth. And Naomi, I understand that you're already here with us by Skype?
Yes. Hi, Denise. Hi, Sam.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me in your program.
We're really glad to have you, and it's amazing we have you on Skype, although you're from Georgetown University, just not too far from us, but welcome with us this evening. But tell us a little bit about the interactions that you've had with Denise, Naomi, and the essence of the stones and the quartz and how that relates to sustainability. And we'll put in there resiliency, which is very important, and how this eco-activism is really important as we move through the 21st century.
Sure, yes. You know, her understanding of the Earth as a living organism and the interpretation of the energy of atomic molecules processes that underpins all the life of this planet as a symbol for her work is an urgent message because of the fundamental challenges that we face as human race presently. First, climate change. Earth has entered a new geological era of our own making on the planet, the Anthropocene, our big footprint in the planet, which is now in the process of what some people call the sixth extinction. And second, we are at a historical moment of global changes, economical, political, ideological, and spiritual crisis.
Well, I'm glad you tied all that together because many people look at this as can all be solved by technology. And I think Naomi and, of course, Denise would agree with us that it's not all about the technology, but we have to somehow enhance and engage the human spirit so we have this mind, body, and spirit balance. And that's something that, in looking at the mist of the earth, which is something that is an exhibit that was at the Woodrow Wilson Center and also was published as a book, and also I think there's a CD and DVD about that. But tell us about what the mist of the earth can tell us, can educate us about, again, this very delicate balance as we go towards 2050.
Sure. Well, you know, Denise's exhibit is really a celebration and a call for protection of the peoples of the Atlantic forest and their environment, with its rich fauna and vegetation. And you can see in her photographs and in her photo collages, it's a cornucopia of men morphed into parrots, plants, mother and child blooming like tropical flowers such as lianas, orchids, and bromeliads. 500 years ago, the Atlantic forest of Brazil covered approximately 330 million acres, and that's about twice the size of Texas. But today, more than 85% of this forest has been destroyed. And though it's a small size compared to the Amazon rainforest, the Atlantic forest still has a range of biological diversity similar to that of the Amazon. The Atlantic forest has suffered the most from the impact of Brazil's population growth and development ever since the Europeans first landed in Brazil in the 1500s. And today, less than 2% of what's left of the forest is under protected status. And the Atlantic forest harbors around 2,200 species of birds, mammals, reptiles, and amphibians, 5% of vertebrates on Earth. And this includes nearly 200 bird species that are found nowhere else. And 60% of Brazil's endangered animal species call this place home. And furthermore, the forest is also home to around 2,000 species of plants, represents 8% of the Earth's plants. New species of flora and fauna continue to be discovered.
Well, I tell you, that is an impressive story, and it's just amazing the diversity and also the power that's contained in the riches and the resources, Denise, within Brazil. Tell us a little bit about the fishermen and also the villagers in the midst of the earth. Why is it important that we listen to these indigenous tribes? And what did you learn yourself that's then been translated into all the work that you're doing as far as your studio and this creative burst of energy, I must say, that's been shared actually all around the globe?
Well, Sam, the fishermen, the community of fishermen, I had the experience in the Cairo Sul. They can be compared with all other ancestors of the land. And what they bring is, they bring the knowledge of nature, because they have to survive. They have to have the fish every day on their table. Mm-hmm. They have to have the continuation of their children. And how do they do that? They really, again, they listen to nature. They look how, a young leaf is falling, a young one is being born while the old one is falling. This is what they call the cycle of life. It's not about, oh, death, it's terrible, no, this. No, it's part. We are in a continual process of, impermanence and transformation. And the transformation, it's dynamic. Nature is dynamic. And they bring this to their daily lives.
Mm-hmm. Naomi, looking at this dynamic that Denise is talking about, and how the flora, the fauna, and humankind that's interacting in all this within indigenous peoples and the culture that they have. Many people would say that's old, it's no longer relevant to the world, but I think what you're doing, and also with Denise and many others that are engaged, is that much of the wisdom that's coming from the indigenous peoples is really the new wave of how we're going to be able to protect the environment, protect the planet, and welcome 2 billion new people by 2050 in the process. So in the midst of the earth, what are the 3 parts that's there and the relevance of these 3 parts?
Yes, let's start. Yeah, we are well aware of the drought that Brazil experienced in many parts of the country. The Northeast, Southeast, even the Amazon, if you believe. And Denise exhibits is prophetic and timely. She re-examines the myth of Brazil as paradise on earth since the days of discovery. Not the biblical paradise, Eden, or the ancient classical garden of the Golden Age, but the realization of an old medieval saying, which is, I quote, "There is no sin beyond the equator." So what we have in her photo collages is the exuberance of the tropical forest in the New World, the richness of its fauna, flora, its inhabitants. The second myth is that of the Eldorado dreams of gold and precious stones, Brazil wood, our first commodity. The clearing of land for cattle and plantation farms of the so-called cash crops for export, the same crops, tobacco, sugar, coffee, cocoa, followed by the destruction of the environment and slavery of the indigenous people and Africans. The third myth is Denise's reimagined the prehistoric paradise eons ago, when our continents were a special island of the blessed, represented by rocks formed at the time, the blue stone present in both New World, Bahia and Africa, and recreated in many of our installations, and called Amafrica, America and Africa, and the Pillory in Bahia. In this exhibit, the third part, Paradise Regained, are the stellar mandalas, which in my mind are symbols of hope, healing, and change.
Well, looking at all that, the mandalas, the stars, are the synthesis of what Denise's trajectory, as you say, as far as her artwork, and then, of course, the sculpture and many of the art education projects that she has. Can you expand upon how you think that's important? And we have to be quick. We only have about 30 seconds left.
Okay, what first comes to my mind there was William Burke versus Blake in the verses of the poem Auguries of Innocence. To see the world in a grain of sand and heaven in a wild flower. Hold infinity in the palms of your hand and eternity in an hour. A mandala is a spiritual and ritual symbol in Hinduism and Buddhism, and the monks spend days designing it to represent the universe as a whole. After it's finished, it's swept away and the sand thrown in the river. Its message is about interconnectedness and impermanence, and central to impermanence is the idea of change.
Well, Naomi, thank you for sharing that with us. And actually, I had several days to spend with the representative of the Dalai Lama and actually watched the creation of one of those mandalas. But we have absolutely run out of time, Denise. This has been very enlightening. What do you see for the future of your work, the studio, and the art education that you're doing? And you have about 15 seconds to say all that.
Well, that it brings prosperity for our species, and these lessons can be shared in, you know, we listen to nature. Let's listen to nature.
I think. Good job. Naomi Muniz is from Georgetown University. Denise Milan, creator of Language of Stones, co-founder, Brazilian team of Engage Earth. Thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.
Good night. Thank you.